Hello, my name's Sheehan, and today I'd like to talk about Mozart's 39th Symphony in E-flat major. I'd like to go through this lovely work exploring the structures in each of the four movements. I do like following the structure of classical music, and that's what my channel's about. So if that's something you like doing, following the music closely, please click like and subscribe. Now, Mozart's 39th Symphony was written in 1788, along with number 40 and 41. We don't know why Mozart wrote these works. There must have been a good reason. He was trying to get some concerts underway in 1790 for some new symphonies, and that's where this work and the others could have been premiered. But we don't know. Mozart maybe didn't hear these performed. But what is lovely about these last three symphonies of Mozart are, and this has often been written about, they do make a rather nice trilogy. We've got this wonderful 39th Symphony in E-flat major. It's kind of an ebullient work full of joy and vigour. Then we've got the pathos of number 40 in G minor, and then the grand summing up of the Jupiter Symphony, particularly in that contrapuntal finale. To me, it's a bit like the original Star Wars trilogy. You know, you've got the Star Wars, The Empire Strikes Back, the sad thing in the middle, number 40, and then the great ending, the ending of all endings in the Return of the Jedi. But anyway, let's look at this piece in more detail, number 39. I've done videos on the other two if you want to check those out. And number 39 begins with a sonata form movement with a lengthy introduction. Something Mozart didn't do very often in his symphonies. It's more of a Haydn-esque thing, isn't it? But here we go. And it begins like this. Something very larger than life, kind of in the grand French style about this music, very kind of operatic in a way, with those dotted rhythms. Etc. Really grand music. The music soon moves to the dominance. We have this plodding B flat, and then in the woodwinds, etc. Those chains of descending semiquaver runs in the violins. There's a glorious climax full of drama where we hear this wonderful dissonance, a C in the first violin to D flat in the second violins. I love that. Just before it resolves. Wonderful, isn't it? That C and D flat clashing. Eventually that takes us to the first subject. Reminds me a bit of the Blue Danube, this first subject. I know that was written quite a number of years later, but It just does. I think it's that horn part over the top. Also, I wonder if Beethoven was inspired when he wrote his Eroica, also in E flat, of course, and in 3/4 when he listened to this. We then have this dramatic part in the first subject. I love this bit. Such dramatic music. Just love it. We then have a transition which brings back some of those descending rivers of semiquavers from the introduction. Etc. And near the end of the transition we have this idea. We're going to hear that in the development. We then have this rather rustic pedal in the horns, and we have the second subject, B flat major, the dominant. What's nice about that is it's a 5-bar phrase, which is quite quirky. We often think of that period of music as being very 4/square, in 4s, 8s, etc. But here we have a 5-bar phrase. Dum, da, 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 bum, bum, ba, it adds more life to the music. And that wonderful balance as well. The kind of question, dun, da, 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 then the answer, bum, 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 ba, we also have hints of the first subject group as well, including this idea. That kind of Scotch snap idea we heard earlier. Then we have the Codetta, etc. A really exciting way to round off this exposition, and sure enough, most times we might have that repeated. Then we're into the development. Remember that idea from the transition? Dum, 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 bum. Well, that acts as a transition again into A flat major. We hear that a lot in the development. Then we hear the first subject. Most of this development section is based on the first subject and that transition idea. We're taken into darker minor territory before we're back to the first subject for the recapitulation. We have the transition, the second subject, this time of course in the tonic, E flat major. We have the Codetta, slightly extended this time, which brings this wonderful movement to a close. The second movement, the Andante con moto, is in a truncated sonata form. That means it's your regular sonata form, but without a development. It's in A flat major. And we begin with this, the first subject. Another phrase. The feature of this music is that kind of dum da dum da dum da dum the rhythm. Reminds me of, I think, Dvorak's Humoresque, a violin piece I used to play once. It's a bit like this. Whatever it is. Yeah, but anyway, that kind of rhythm. It's a lovely change to the minor at the end of the first subject as well. We then have one of my favourite passages of the whole symphony. That's the transition between the first and second subjects. It's so dramatic and it's just so beautiful as well. Kind of reminder of the first subject rhythm as well there. The second subject is very placid. It sounds like this. Then we're back to the first subject. No development. The transition, and the transition the second time I just love as well, because it's almost as if we hear foretastes of Wagner in the harmony here. Have a listen. Don't know, for a brief split second it's almost as if I'm in Act 3 of Siegfried or something. We have the kind of calming, tranquil second subject in the tonic, before we have a coda based on that first subject theme. The Menuetto, the third movement, is very straightforward, full of bracing energy. The A section, the minuet's like this. The next bit. Back to the beginning of that minuet. The B section, the trio, is lovely. There's wonderful clarinet parts, like a babbling brook. Have a listen. And then before we know it, we're back to the rousing minuet. The finale is in sonata form, but it's monothematic. What does that mean? Well, it's usually something associated with Haydn, where we have the same tune basically in both the first subject and the second subject. It's just the keys are different. And it's a lovely scurrying tune, very cheeky in E flat major. The first subject. We have a transition before we go to the second subject. And remember, this is the same tune, but this time in B flat major. We have a Codetta based on that idea before we go to the development. And as you'd expect, it's based on that melody. Mozart gets a whole movement out of one tune. A flat major, but then we go to different keys, going all over the place, and then of course eventually we get back to the recapitulation, where we hear that tune again in all its guises: first subject, transition, second subject, and then we have the Codetta. And that is Mozart's 39th Symphony. Thank you for watching. Please click like and subscribe, and if there's anything you'd like me to look at in the future, please put it in the comments. I will get round to all of them one day. All the best. Bye.